Welcome to the Hythe Estuary, a barbell estuary just north of Aberdeen, near Newborough. There's a lot of common seabirds here, from eider to common terns, but today we're looking at crows and the behaviour of dropping shells from a height to crack them and gain food. There is a huge variety of extremely intelligent organisms in the animal kingdom. Us humans are arguably the most intelligent of all, but hundreds of other species are extremely intelligent in their own right. Crows are one such organism. Recognised for being highly intelligent and having large brains, they are some of the best problem solvers in the animal kingdom. They have been observed being able to mimic human languages, use tools, and employ very smart foraging methods. One of these foraging methods that we are discussing is the extremely interesting behaviour of carrion crows in coastal areas, taking gastropods, bivalves, and shellfish and dropping them repeatedly from a height in order to crack the shell and gain access to the organism inside. Here we can see a crow at the Hythe estuary repeatedly fly vertically upward and then drop the mussel it intends to eat. It will fly to a point and then drop the mussel onto the hard substratum below. This process will be repeated again and again and again until finally the shell cracks, giving the crow access to the now vulnerable mollusk inside.
Before we go any further, let's break this down. We'll be analysing this behaviour through the lens of the 4 Tinbergen questions, named after the biologist behind it, Nicholas Tinbergen. Tinbergen came up with 4 questions he believed were essential when considering an organism's behaviour. These were: adaptive significance. Why does the organism do this? How does it affect fitness? Phylogeny, the evolution of the behaviour. How have selection pressures affected it? Is this behaviour seen in relatives? And if so, is it inherited from a common ancestor, or has it convergently evolved? Ontogeny. Does this behaviour develop throughout the organism's lifetime? Does the organism learn this behaviour? And if so, how? And finally, mechanism. What are the underlying physiological processes or stimuli that allow this behaviour to occur? It should be noted that these questions are not mutually exclusive. They can and do overlap in aspects and are often related to one another. With that out of the way, let's get to the specifics. Crows, like many other organisms, are generalist feeders and will often take what they can get, with a diet reflecting the food availability. Coastal areas are certainly not lacking in foodstuffs. However, they still maintain competition with the species around them, especially specialised waders and gulls. Although the dropping behaviour is observed year-round, it is a foraging method likely to be partaken in more frequently when other food sources become scarce and competition increases. Seasonality is one factor which increases this behaviour, with insects being less abundant in winter months. Crows need a stable and fulfilling food source, which the molluscs provide. It is not uncommon for crows to switch again to another food source should molluscs themselves become scarce. It has been observed that mussels do decrease in size over winter. However, that does not appear to have any effect on the crow dropping behaviour and the frequency at which it is carried out. Not only do molluscs provide a stable food source when others are diminished, but they provide a great deal of calcium to the birds, essential for the bones of both adult and young birds. Large mussels provide the greatest energy benefit to the birds, but with the time cost of searching for the larger mussels, it is perhaps in the interest of the crows to drop several smaller mussels in this time instead. Crows have been observed having specific drop sites. For example, Looker's airfield provided an ideal, hard substrate for the crows to crack mussels on. We observed crows at the Hythe estuary dropping mussels on the rocky substrate of the golf course adjacent to the estuary, with shells littering the site. It is likely a well-used site for this behaviour.
Following up from the crow we saw earlier on, we seem to have found a feeding ground for these animals. As we can see here, bring the camera down, we have a whole bunch of crushed up, broken shells littering this whole area. This seems to suggest that this is not just a behaviour they're doing willy-nilly in any spot, but in fact they are finding precise locations to best break the shells open and get into those tasty insects.
To minimise energy costs, crows will drop the shells from a minimum height, thus avoiding flying unnecessarily high. This also decreases the chance that the bird will lose sight of its prey should it get lost in the drop. It also reduces the chances of kleptoparasites, i.e. gulls or other crows, taking the opportunity to take the prey before the crow has a chance to return to the ground and collect its loot. This foraging behaviour is the ideal strategy for crows to gain access to a niche usually tapped into by specialist birds. It provides energy-rich resources with minimal competition and provides essential energy during the breeding seasons and during winter.
This particular and complex behaviour has been observed in other species than crows, including gulls such as the kelp gulls or the western gulls, or even in eagles. Preys can vary from molluscs, crustaceans, tortoises, or nuts, but the method stays the same. Crows have been observed dropping nuts in traffic, or seagulls dropping clams on roofs of cars to break them open, showing a truly remarkable and efficient reasoning. Seeing this behaviour in different distant related orders tells us that it has evolved numerous times over the course of history. We can also observe it on many continents and in very different habitats, resulting in fascinating adaptive modifications according to their niches. Seeing that most members of the Corvus family possesses the same relative brain size, the emergence of tool use, or in this case, food handling behaviour in some of the species, is most likely related to their environment, thus showing convergent evolution. Given their incredible intelligence, crows have been adapting to their habitats all over the world with innovative techniques such as dropping mussels on a hard substrate on coastal areas.
The behavior of dropping hard-shelled prey on hard floors to access the edible inner parts doesn't seem to manifest innately in crows. In fact, when it comes to performing shell dropping, adult crows are noticeably faster and more efficient than juveniles. For the behavior to be successful, many variables like size, type, weight, height at which the prey should be dropped, the number of drops necessary for it to break, whether to abandon or continue, and the substrate on which it should be dropped to reduce the amount of trials are to be considered. All that should be assessed by the crow through active decision making while aware that the net energy intake should be higher than the energy consumed while performing the behavior. Seeing the complexity of shell breaking, it doesn't seem surprising for young birds to struggle with time and quality when attempting it. So, how did juvenile crows learn such foraging behavior? By social learning. They observe and reproduce what they see their parents do to feed themselves. For that to happen, it requires the involvement of mirror neurons, which allow the understanding of the organism's actions and intention through mirror images. The neuronal system allows juveniles to learn new skills like shell dropping in this case. However, learning doesn't equate to efficient replication. In fact, the development of this food handling behavior can be very slow, leading to younger crows adopting a trial and error approach when trying to perform it. For example, they will try many different substrates like water and grass before realizing that only hard, rocky surfaces seem to break the shells efficiently. Additionally, juvenile crows might not have mature enough nervous and muscular systems to carry the foraging behavior in the required way.
As we have just discussed and observed, this behaviour is primarily cognitive and is a process of learning through trial and error. However, to grasp a better understanding of the behaviour, we must turn to the underlying physiology. In winter and spring, crows are faced with an important challenge: food shortage. Insects, their main source of nutrients, are scarce when the colder months arrive. Environmental cue, a lack of food, triggers the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. This involves the hypothalamus releasing a hormone called corticotropin releasing hormone, otherwise known as CRH. This then signals the release of adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, from the anterior pituitary gland. This new signal travels down to the adrenal cortex, which is located in the outermost layer of the adrenal glands, which are on top of the kidneys. This is where the stress hormone cortisol is released into the body. This increases the glucose levels in the bird's body and increases its energy in the search of finding other alternative food. Coastal crows revert to molluscs and gastropods during these months and use this extra energy to crack open the hard shells. But still, why do they go through the effort of cracking open shells? They are scavengers. Can they not just eat scraps? Well, adult crows need high concentrations of calcium in their bodies for egg laying, and nestlings need high concentrations of calcium for growing strong skeletons. Crows know they need nutritious food to meet these demands. Molluscs and gastropods are abundant on coasts year-round and are very high in protein and calcium. This is why this prey is chosen and why the stress of food shortage triggers this peculiar behaviour.
So there we have it. When food is scarce and competition is high, crows know how to quell their hunger. Shell dropping is a hard behaviour to learn, but one that is perfected over time. It provides essential nutrients for crows and their young, and minimises competition. We've seen how it's learned and how it's taught, and just how essential it is for these birds. It's very successful and seen all over the globe, not only in crows. So next time you're at the coast, have a look out for these brilliant birds and this amazing behaviour. Thank you for watching.